Despite the obvious need for saving money for most people, many of them simply do not know how to do it correctly, how to save money. For some people, saving money comes down to primitively limiting their needs and accumulating money due to these restrictions, which, as we know, are constantly depreciating. Consequently, saving money is not profitable for us, under any circumstances, but it is very necessary to manage it wisely. Accumulating money that is constantly losing value and which can turn into candy wrappers at any moment is not saving. Therefore, do not do nonsense, do not accumulate useless paper in your hiding places. This paper should work for you, and not be dead capital. So, despite the savings that most people have, they do not know how to save money properly, and allowing financial tycoons to steal this money without even touching it is possible without having much knowledge. Once upon a time, in my toilet, at my old place of residence, on the wall were pasted Soviet money with a portrait of Lenin, which could not be used in any other way. But someone toiled at factories, plants, on collective farms, for these Soviet pieces of paper. And then, one fine day, they depreciated, they simply ceased to be accepted as a means of payment, that's all. Those who saved them, in one moment lost everything, although people could at least somehow use this money and benefit from it. But they did not understand the simple truth that money is a conditional value. Therefore, when the conditions of relations between the state and the people change, not in favor of the people, this value ceases to be valuable. So whoever collected this money acted very stupidly, and stupidity is characteristic of us, to whom? That's right, to most people, who are simply taught the wrong things in life when they are educated, and not because people are stupid in themselves. So, given the current unstable economic situation, which, in any case, is unstable. In stable Russia, I think it is appropriate to once again carefully study the issue of saving money, which, although I have already considered it before, but not deeply enough. You understand, times change and circumstances change too, and over time I become smarter and learn a lot of new things, so each of my subsequent articles will become better and more useful for you. Well, you, in turn, carefully read these lines and take note. Well, let's move on to saving money and look at this issue from the right side. Saving money, friends, is moderate and smart spending of this money. You can even say this, it is careful spending of money. I will repeat once again, for especially thoughtful people, it is moderate and smart spending of money. The key word here is spending. Not saving money, but spending. You do not need to sew the money you earn into a mattress, or keep it in some hiding place. You do not need to collect this waste paper. Money needs to be spent, but spent wisely, and this is how to save it. You should have some kind of emergency reserve, so to speak, for any emergency, but this money is cannon fodder or cannon money, it would probably be more correct. That is, you must be morally prepared to lose this money, because those who set the fashion in the financial world are well aware of the tendency of some people to grease their money. Therefore, they periodically lower the value of this money, and in some cases, as was the case in Russia, this money can be completely removed from circulation, so that you, or rather your labor, ends up being free. You don't know how to save money if you constantly put it aside and don't let it benefit you, because by doing so you are condemning your money to a slow death. Money should work, that's its purpose, that's what it was invented for, and in the case of saving money, it should work correctly, and not be wasted. To save money, it should be directed to areas that are beneficial to you, trying to get the maximum return with a minimum of costs. Businessmen, real businessmen, not illiterate resellers, as well as economists, know this very well. They know how to squeeze the maximum benefit out of their money. A simple example. Let's say I make a couple of phone calls a day and negotiate various deals with people, and this type of activity brings me an income of, roughly speaking, $1,000 a day. And you, again, let's say, toil in the fields and grow my bread, receiving the same $1,000 for your work, but per month. Whose work is easier and more profitable? The answer is obvious. But, with such methods of earning money, each of us spends this money in our own way. You can spend money on inexpensive clothes, you can use public transport and live in a small apartment to pay less for it. That is, your expenses are adequate to your income. Even though you dream of more. I, earning $1,000 a day, spend money less carefully, because I can afford it. I can buy myself expensive clothes, which in reality I don't need at all, but I want to be, and often seem, cool. I also have my own car, which I fill with expensive gasoline and for which I pay taxes, and so on. In order for me to start saving money, I simply need to stop buying expensive things and refuse luxuries that are completely unnecessary to me. Then I will continue to spend my money as before, but in smaller amounts and on things that are more profitable for me. You, with your income, can also close some holes in your budget without any significant self-restraint. Only your savings will be, let's say, less effective than mine, given the difference in our incomes. That is, according to this example, it is all about what we get for our money and what we give for it. This is the essence of saving, real saving. Money works for you when you spend it, and not when it is lying around and gradually depreciating. You benefit from money only when you buy someone else's labor with it, which is harder than the labor that brought you this money. But when your money is lying around like a dead weight, you get nothing from it, nothing. You worked, spent your energy and time, you were paid money for it, but you do not buy someone else's labor with it, and this means that you worked in vain. True, with money not spent, you can buy the most valuable thing, time, but for this you will have to simply live with this money, that is, again, you will have to spend it, and spend it on the goods and services you most need, the most, I emphasize, necessary. This is what saving is. You will simply consume the goods you really need with your money, satisfying your natural needs, and not indulging your unnatural desires. Elementary savings, from my point of view, is first of all saving your energy, which you spend on work for money. We are not just batteries, damn it, to extract energy from us, we are people, and people should have the opportunity to live and create, and not obey and perform. By saving money, you save time in your life, during which you can feel with every fiber of your soul life. Therefore, every penny you spend should go to supporting your life, and not to killing time in this life. When you come to the store for the same products, you, buying these products, pay your money for the work of those people who produced these products, stored them and delivered them to this store. What did you do in turn for the money for which you buy these products? Was your work harder or easier? If it is more difficult, then it is important for you to buy cheap products, and thus save your energy and time through money, and if it is easier, then stick to those purchases that will be beneficial for you precisely from the point of view of the ratio of your and someone else's labor. What will such savings give you? One will give you exactly what you need, for a minimum of your efforts. If you earned 1,000 rubles and spent them on the most necessary for you, which was created by more difficult and expensive work, you saved your money by saving your efforts, and if you dig even deeper into this issue, it turns out that you parasitized on someone else's labor. I will repeat once again that you benefit from money only when you spend it, or rather, when someone sells you something valuable for your money, at a favorable price, that is, at a price that objectively reflects the harder work of another person, compared to your work. I made a couple of phone calls and earned $1,000, and you toiled in the fields all month, for the same $1,000. It turns out that it is profitable for me to buy food from you, but it is not profitable for you to use my services, unless these services lead you to a higher standard of living, in which you will work less and earn more. Those who do not spend money on anything, who simply save it and allow it to depreciate, do not really save money, they simply do not benefit from it. And perhaps they will never receive it, or will receive it, but in lesser quantities than they could, because the depreciation of money is the depreciation of our labor. I hope that my repeated repetition of this truth will allow you to skillfully use it in your life. We all exchange life energy and time when we buy something from each other for money and sell something to each other. Money itself has no value, without our consent to sell something for it. But one way or another, we need to buy something from each other, at least the same food and clothes, unless you are going to gnaw the bark from trees, as one of my father's acquaintances did, who grew up in an orphanage. The only question is what and for what price we will buy, and in what quantities. We save money not because we may have little of it, but because saving implies a person's wise use of his money, which in itself is an indicator of the rationality of this person. And then we all talk about how we are rational creatures, but it is worth looking at the stupidity of our actions, as all this rationality comes down to just more complex tricks that we can perform in comparison with our smaller brothers. Nowadays, every person needs to be economical, if only to prevent other people from parasitizing on them. If money does not fall on you from the sky, but you somehow earn it, then learn to spend it carefully and thoughtfully, and spend it gradually, and not all at once. Gradualism is necessary so that you consume goods and services for your money in the amount that you really need. After all, when cunning and wise marketers hold all sorts of promotions in stores, in which they make goods cheaper, for example, the same products, then it is stupid to buy these goods in large quantities, just because they are cheap. You will flush most of the products down the toilet, without even digesting them, and perhaps they will not even reach your stomach at all, because you will throw them away. So what is the benefit here, in a low, but at the same time absolutely useless price for you? And if we touch on other goods we buy, it turns out that many of us work for air, because we buy and buy all sorts of nonsense, without thinking about why and for what purpose they buy something. Why is clear, because that's what they said on TV, but why, that's a question for psychology. Smart marketers are well aware of your instincts when they develop various plans to manipulate you. They know that you are greedy, lazy, cowardly, anxious, moderately stupid, not all of you, but some of you, in general. They understand what exactly and why you can bite. And they tell you that you will gain and save if you buy, say, 2 packs of something there, instead of 1, if you buy 2 frying pans, instead of 1, buy 2 pants, instead of 1, and so on. But in reality, making such purchases, you consume more than the norm and thereby irrationally spend your money, directing it to paying high bonuses to other people who had a hand in curbing your instincts. If you want to work for someone else's benefit, then go for it, but if you still respect your work and value the time spent on it, then you need to become more critical of your whims. Labor, time, energy, real needs, reasonable goals, that's what you should pay attention to before spending even 1 penny. You come to the store to buy something, and in the store, they look at you like a lemon that needs to be squeezed properly. You received your salary, and numerous predators have already set their sights on it, who, believe me, will make a lot of effort to force you to part with your money, and after them will come scavengers who will eat up the rest of your pennies. So, thinking about how to learn to save money, try to understand what is hidden behind this concept, saving. Your instincts, that's what it's all about, are what you should take under your control so as not to allow other people to manipulate you. How many stupid grandmas and grandpas have lost their coffins because of stupidity and greed? And who, I ask, is to blame for this? Maybe the swindlers who simply took advantage of what was available, or those who did not educate these grandmas and grandpas properly when they were young, as a result of which they turned from gullible sheep into even more gullible senile people? A war is waged against you and me every day, aimed at squeezing money out of us, in which economy plays the role of protection, the role of immunity, from this external aggression against us. The task of the capitalist is to make you work for 10, and pay you for 1. And if you will not work for a low salary, then your labor can be devalued in another way, by selling you expensive goods and services, the price of which will include 80% of air. Today, at the time of writing this article, the situation, not only in the Russian economy, but also in the global economy in general, leaves much to be desired. And the big guys will not reduce their appetites, they will rather target the pockets of ordinary people, which are a source of income for them. Therefore, the question of how to start saving money is more relevant than ever. We need to adapt to circumstances if we are unable to adapt them to ourselves. I think that the issue of saving money will always be relevant, for the simple reason that the social parasitic policy will also be relevant, under which always, everywhere and at all times, some people sought to live at the expense of other people. No one will chain you today for exploitation, but they will try to enslave you through money, taking it from you in every possible way. If you fail to resist this, you will be forced to work for 10 people your whole life, following the proverb that without effort, you can't take a fish out of a pond. And your life, meanwhile, will slowly melt away, leaving behind the opportunities you didn't use and the benefits you missed. Those whose incomes are incredibly high may not have a headache about saving their money, although many rich people whom I personally know will not spend their money just like that, on whatever comes to hand. They also save money, despite their high incomes, for the reason that they earned it, and did not steal it or take it from other people, and one's work cannot be ignored and appreciated. And you, try not to give your money to everyone, spending it on all sorts of nonsense. Do not forget that behind this money there is not just anyone's work, but your own. In the future, we will return to how to save money many times, so that as you study this issue, you will gradually be able to rationalize all your money expenses as much as possible. Having become smarter, friends, you will become freer. And the one who plots against us from these very plots and will bend.